Listen up or run for cover. Dropping knowledge from the people who have it to the people who need it. The real Brad Lee Bombs is dropping
What it is, Brad Lee back again with another episode of Dropping Bombs. Today in the studio, folks, as you know, I've got a real treat for you, especially if you're going to look to make a little cash in 2021. Folks, you may or may not have heard of him, but you're about to. Khleif is in the house. What's happening, Rod?
You, my friend, you. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Dude, I appreciate you coming out here. If you guys haven't heard of Rod, you can follow him at Rod_Khleif. That's spelled Khleif. He's a dude. You're going to love this podcast. He's a dude that's, started and sold businesses. What, 24 of them?
Built 24 of them, yeah.
24 businesses. You're a real estate mogul.
Okay.
And you've the biggest excitement that I had coming in here is you lost
big time
50 mil.
Yeah, ouch.
50 mil. Number one, how'd you even get 50 mil? Number two, when you lost it, how did it feel? And now you're back in action. So again, this is going to be a kick-ass podcast. So just to kick it all off, Rod, tell the listeners, tell the Bomb Squad kind of your story. How'd you lose $50 million?
Let me go back a little bit because it's going to lend some framework to what I'm going to talk about. So I actually immigrated this country when I was 6 years old with my brother Albert, my mother's Vansha. I was born in Holland. I was born in the Netherlands, and we immigrated and ended up in Denver, Colorado, where I lived for about 30 years. And we didn't have much. In fact, we struggled. I wore clothes from the Goodwill and the Salvation Army all the way through junior high school till I could get a job. I lied about my age at Burger King when I was 14 and got a job and bought myself a car when I was 15 and started buying clothes and whatnot. But yeah, we had it tough. I remember we had expired food because that's all we could afford. We drank powdered milk because my mom thought milk was healthy at the time. But, and I'm sure there's people listening that have had it harder than I did, or maybe have it harder now with all this COVID crap going on. But, I knew that I wanted more. And so luckily, my mom was a bit of an entrepreneur. And so that we have enough money to eat, she babysat kids. We always had a house full of kids. And with her babysitting money, she invested in the stock market, actually did quite well. But she also bought the house across the street from us when I was 14 for about $30,000. And then when I was 17, she told me she'd made $20,000 in her sleep that had gone up $20,000. I'm like, screw college, I'm getting into real estate. And so right when I turned 18, I got my real estate broker's license, not just an agent. I was a broker, which you could do back then with education. Now they got smart and you need some experience. But I became a real estate broker right when I turned 18, and I was going to be rich selling other people's houses in real estate. Well, my first year in real estate, I made about $8,000. My second year, maybe $10,000. But my third year, I made over $100,000. And back in 1981, that was some decent change. So what happened between year 2 and year 3? Well, what happened was I met someone that taught me about the importance of mindset and psychology, and how really 80 to 90% of your success in anything is your mindset and your psychology. Only 10 to 20% is the mechanical information, like real estate, as it were, or building a business or investing in the stock market. The strategy, the mechanics of that is the smallest percent. If it was just the knowledge, there'd be a bunch of wealthy librarians and college professors out there. It's the do. You got to actually take action with what you learn. And so fast forward to today, I've owned over 2,000 houses that I rented long term. I've owned multiple apartment complexes in 3 states. In 2006, my net worth went up $17 million while I slept. But there's a punchline. But I thought I was a freaking real estate god. I mean, I thought, my head got so big I could barely fit it through a door. I thought I was the best in the business. And, when that happens, God of the universe will give you a nice little smackdown. Well, that was 2008 for me. I lost that $17 million. I lost $50 million in 2008. And so, one of the things that I enjoy talking about is the mindset it took to have the 50 million to lose in the first place, but then more importantly, the mindset it took to recover from losing it to get back to the success that I'm blessed to have today. And so I'd love if we have time to chat about that a little bit.
Well, sure. I want to chat about it right now.
All right.
What kind of mindset? I mean,
well,
what are the secrets?
Yeah. Let's talk about it, because it really, I know that there are a lot of people out there. I mean, we're here in Vegas right now, and I flew out here to do this with you. We're having a lot of fun, but it's so painful to see all the suffering that's going on, all the businesses that have gone out of business. And, the restaurants and the hotels are at like skeleton staff. Most of the restaurants are closed. Some of the retail was open. We were talking about this a little bit before we started recording, but it's just like a ghost town. And, it's really tough right now. And so mindset is more important than ever. So if you're watching this or listening to this, let me tell you, if you're watching Brad, you're a leader. And right now, the freaking world needs leaders more than ever, and even if, you're just a leader of your family, but maybe you've got a business or you've got peers that look up to you. And right now, your focus is so freaking important. And it's so easy to get sucked into, CNN or, the media and the BS that's out there right now. But what you have to remember, my friends, is that whatever you focus on gets bigger. So it's so important right now, because you're a leader. I wasn't ready for that. That's pretty cool. Anyway, because you're a leader, you need to focus on what you want and really stand guard at your mind and keep the crap out. Okay. And, I've got a podcast as well, like Brad's, and I do these little motivational clips once a week. But regardless, if you listen to mine or if you just go on YouTube and listen to some good stuff, bring in the good stuff right now, because again, what you focus on is what gets larger. But and I completely mindset. So, it's the way I was able to recover. And again, the way I had it to lose in the first place is focusing again on what I wanted, not what I didn't want. And let me give you, in fact, let me give you a great example of this. I get students that call me all the time and say, I've got all this student loan debt. And I'm like, dude, wrong statement. And they're like, how can I get out of that? Say, forget about focusing on the debt. Focus on the income you need to make to get out of the debt. They asked Mother Teresa if she was anti-war. She said, no, I'm pro-peace. See the difference? So focus again is so important. So back when I lost it all, I just reassociated with what I wanted and why I wanted it. And so, and I know if you listen to Brad, you probably do your goals, but what I'd like to do, if Brad will humor me for about 5 minutes, is I'd like to share a process that I take my students through, and I do this at my live events too, or live stream events now with COVID. But the first thing we do is we do this kind of like a goal-setting workshop, but it's on steroids. It's like nothing you've ever likely done before. Do you want me to drill down on that for a sec? Okay, all right. So if you're listening, if you have the opportunity to take some notes, I would recommend that you do. It's just because there's several pieces to this, but every one of them is important. So what you do is you pick an hour when you're uninterrupted, and make sure you're well hydrated. Drink some water. I'm going to take a drink while I'm saying that. Don't do it right after a meal. And sit down and write down everything you could ever possibly want in life. Of course, all the stuff, the houses, the cars, the boats, the jet skis, the planes. Brad and I were admiring each other's watches, that stupid shit. Whatever it is that you want, write it down, okay? And what's important here is that you take the lid off your brain. Imagine that if you write it down, you're going to get it, which is not outside the realm of reality. And I'll drill down on that in a minute. But because what it does, just a simple act of associating with what you want, it triggers something in your brain called your reticular activating system. And it's a subconscious filter that it's not conscious. Your brain basically points you in the direction of things that it thinks you're interested in. And the greatest example of it that I can give you that you'll all relate to is when you first buy a vehicle. You never really noticed them before then, but then they're everywhere. Were they there before? Of course they were. And that's your reticular activating system honing you in on what it thinks is important. It's the same thing with your goals. But again, do not limit yourself. If you want a private island, a jet, a yacht, whatever it is, write it down, because there's nothing you cannot do, be, or have. You just have to decide and write it down. So you're going to write down all the stuff. Then you also want to write down all the things you want to do in this lifetime. Maybe the places you want to travel. Maybe you want to climb all the mountains over 14,000 feet, or you want to jump out of a perfectly good airplane. I did that about 8 months ago. I'll never freaking do it again, but it's off the list. So whatever it is you want to do, write it down. Also write down what you want to learn in this lifetime. If you want to learn a foreign language, if you want to learn multifamily, for God's sakes, we'll mention I do a 2-day live stream boot camp. Now it's $97 and I don't sell anything there. It's kind of a no-brainer. If you want to learn multifamily, then for God's sakes, come see me. But, whatever it is, you want to learn a skill set, write that down. Whatever it is in your lifetime, the things that you plan on learning, okay? Big things, little things. Write down how much money, by the way, you're going to have in the bank in 3 years from your business endeavors. Write down how much cash flow you're going to have, say, in 3 years. And do the same for 10 years. How much money you're going to have in the bank in 10 years? How much cash flow you're going to have, net cash flow in 10 years? Write that down. Declare it. I've got a sign above my bed. Drives my wife freaking crazy, but I used to have a sign that said 100,000 a month a long time ago. Now I've got a sign that says 1 million a month. And why is it there? Because it freaking works. Okay. So write down what you want. Then, lastly, write down who you want to help. We will do more as human beings than we'll ever do for others than we'll ever do for ourselves. So you want to use this, guys. So write down who you want to help. Maybe you want to help your family. Maybe you want to, help nature, the environment, the elderly, children, whatever it is. Write it down. I bought my parents a house, in Florida on a canal. Bought them a car. Took them on cruises. Who do you want to do things for? Write that down. Okay, now once you can't think of, and by the way, if you're analytical, please don't stop and analyze this stuff. Just keep writing. You can always scratch it out later, but just don't let the pen leave the paper until you can't think of another freaking thing. Once you're done, I want you to put a number by each goal, how long it's going to take you to achieve it, how many years. So just put a 1, a 3, a 5, even a 10 or a 20, recognizing that as human beings, we'll overestimate what we can do in a year, but we'll massively underestimate what we can do in 5, 10, 20 years. I'll give you an example of this, but please let me pre-frame this by saying it's not me bragging. I'm really hoping to inspire you as to what's possible. So when I was 18, I lived in Denver, but I knew I wanted to live on the beach. I mean, and there's no freaking beach in Denver. But I would visualize the palm trees and the surf and the sand and all that. Literally for 20 years. And 20 years later, I built this incredible $8 million, 10,000 square foot mansion on the beach. I had the beach on one side. It's called a Gulf to Bay. And on the back side, I had my boat lifts. I mean, just spectacular home. I mean, I'll give you an idea of the house. I had a giant spiral staircase up through the middle, and on the second floor, I had fish tanks that were custom made, curved around the spiral staircase. Those fish tanks cost me almost $200,000, so that gives you an idea of the house. But that was unthinkable when I was 18. So the point I'm making here is do not limit yourself. I like to look at Elon Musk. Started with nothing. Now he's built $3 billion startup. So don't tell me there's truly nothing you cannot do, be, or have. So once you've got a time limit on each goal, there's just a couple more quick steps, and I'll get off my soapbox. But you want to pick your number one goal. I mean, that goal that when you get it, you're like, oh my God, this is freaking amazing. That goal that you've arrived when you got it. Put that on a separate sheet of paper. Then I want you to pick your top 3 one-year goals. Put those on a separate sheet of paper. So you've got 4 goals. Leave some room in between them. Now, at this point, I'm going to tell you, you are already ahead of 99.9% of the people on the planet that do a New Year's resolution that's forgotten about by February. But there's just a couple quick more steps. I want you to write down underneath each one of those goals why it's an absolute freaking must for you to achieve it. It has to happen. I'll give you a couple tips here. You want to use emotionally charged words when you're writing your why down. Words like amazing, incredible, beautiful, unbelievable, so that I can show my wife or husband what success looks like. So I can show our kids what it means to be amazingly successful. So we can have, the freedom to do whatever we want, go wherever we want, bring whoever we want, do it whenever we want. Whatever it is that's going to juice you, write it down. And again, use those emotionally charged words. And then once you've got a little paragraph under each one of your goals, why it has to happen, I want you take a little twist on this, and I want you to put some pain in there if you don't achieve it, and make it freaking painful, so that I don't feel like a failure if you don't get the goal. So I don't live a life of rejection. I don't feel like I failed at life. I mean, make it painful, because as human beings, we will do more to avoid pain than to have pleasure. And you want to use this, guys, because this is the freaking fuel. This is the fuel that'll get your ass out of bed early in the morning, keep you up late at night, have you work Saturdays, to do whatever it takes to build this for yourselves, okay? And if you're willing to work like most people won't for 2 or 3 years, you can live the rest of your life like most people can't. And this is the fuel to make that happen. So again, make it freaking painful if you don't achieve the goal. And I'll tell you, let me give you a prime example of this. There was a nurse in Australia. She was a hospice nurse, and she counseled patients. Well, she took care of patients at the end of their lives, but she asked them a question. And the question was, do you have any regrets? And she even wrote a book about it. It's called The 5 Regrets of Dying. Her name is Bronnie Ware, if you want to get it. But basically, the bottom line is that you want to know what the number one regret was, Brad? It was not living the life I could have lived, living somebody else's life, not doing what I was capable. Guys, would that be horrible to be at the end of your life and have that kind of a regret? It would for me. So this is the fuel that prevents that from happening. And then lastly, there's just one last step. You need to, I talked about that sign on my wall above my bed that drives my wife crazy, but you need to get pictures around you of the things that you want. It's really important. Go on Google and find pictures that resonate with you. They may not be exactly what your goal is, but when you look at them, you're like, oh God, that looks good. That feels good. Download them, go to CVS or Walgreens, have them blown up and put them around you. And let me give you some example, because that's how you manifest this stuff into existence. And, I probably lost some of you analytical ones, but I'm here to tell you, big mistake if you don't pay attention to this, because this shit works, okay? So I'll give you some examples. I'll give you some public examples. So Jim Carrey, when he was flat broke, wrote himself a check for $1 million out of his own checking account. And for those of you that know those millennials don't know what a check is, that's how we used to pay for things. But he wrote himself a check for $1 million and put in the remittance. What did he put in? Oh no, I forgot. For services rendered or something like that with a smiley face. Anyway, he used to go up by the Hollywood sign, and he'd look at that check, he'd pull it out of his wallet, and he'd look at it and visualize cashing it. And that's how much money he made for Dumb and Dumber. I'll give you a more recent example. Demi Lovato, 10 years ago, when she was really a no-name, put on social media, I'm going to sing in the Super Bowl. Go watch the last Super Bowl. So guys, this stuff works. I'll give you some personal examples for me. Back when I was 18, I got a Ford 4-door Granada. Piece of you know what, a bench seat in the front, but I figured I had to have a 4-door car to show other people houses, right? And so I got this bone ugly Granada, but I worked with that guy I was telling you about that taught me about mindset. He had Corvettes and he had Lincoln Continentals. He had a 3-car garage, just stuff I'd never seen before. But he let me drive the Corvette. And that's a critical piece here. If there's something you want, guys, go test drive the car. Go to the open house of the house like the one you want. I was just telling Brad before we started recording here, I went to the Miami Yacht Show back in February and BS'd my way on these giant yachts and pretending that I was going to buy them. And I sat in the captain's chair and I laid on the bed and I walked around like I owned the freaking place. Why? Because it works, okay? And so, but anyway, so if there's something you want, go experience as much of it as you can. But anyway, so I drove the Corvette and I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. So I got a picture of a Corvette out of a magazine. This is before you could spell internet. And I got a picture out of a magazine. I put it on the visor of this bone ugly Granada. So every time I sat in it, it was right in my face. And within a year or two, I had a Corvette. Now, let me give you a couple more examples here. And again, I want to pre-frame this, not me bragging. I just want to hope to inspire you as to what's possible. So this is back when the TV show Magnum P.I. was out. And the actor's name was Tom Selleck, and he was like a detective, and he drove this Ferrari 308, and I thought that was the coolest freaking thing I'd ever seen. So I got a picture of that actual car, and I put it on the visor of my Corvette. Within a year or two, I had a Maserati look just like it. Last example, I'm the guy that always wanted a Lamborghini. Back when Mike Tyson got married, I think for a week or two, and he bought matching white Lamborghini Countaches. I had the pictures of those on my wall growing up, and what's crazy is my son collected models of exotic cars, and I still have this model. He had a model of the exact same color and style Lamborghini that I ended up getting, which I ultimately wrecked. But so in fact, let me show you something. That's why I brought my book here. Since you're videoing this thing, this is my planner, okay? And I'm a dinosaur. I use a freaking paper planner, but here it is. And in the back of this thing, I've got pictures that I've literally had in here for 20 years. I'm not exaggerating. They're in plastic, as you can see. They're all dog-eared. The first pictures are my gratitude pictures. They're pictures of my kids when they were very young. My kids are in their late 20s, early 30s now. So everything starts from a place of gratitude, guys. This is how you manifest this stuff in your life. So I've got pictures of my kids. Then I've got pictures of the houses that I wanted. This top picture looks just like that house I had on the beach. Unfortunately, I lost that house in all the craziness. But now I live in a compound, and I have 6 buildings. I have a giant main house. I've got a beautiful 2-bedroom guest house. By the way, you can come visit anytime, brother, on that. It's beautiful. It's on the water. I've got a big exercise room. I've got a media building they're turning into a video studio. Nothing like this, but it'll still be nice for us. And and it's just, and what's crazy is because God's got a sense of humor. My old house is literally, I can see it out my backyard. It's right across the bay there, the one that I lost. But this is what's crazy is these pictures look just like it. And then I've got pictures of stupid shit like the watches, a few $100,000 of the watches like Brad does here. And, here's the Lamborghini before I ever got it. I had a picture of it. The Rolls Royce, the Bentley, all this crap that I got because I had pictures. So get pictures, guys, because they work. That's how you manifest this stuff. Anyway, that's it. I'm done.
And you believe that
do I believe it?
Because it's worked.
Well, it's not hyperbole, man. I wish I had more examples of it, but I will tell you, even Olympic athletes, okay, the Russians started this. They visualize a race before they run it because it's been proven to improve performance. And so, now all of them do it, okay? The more you can associate with what you want and visualize it, the faster it comes into existence, the more clarity you have around it. Clarity is power, but you've got to believe it as well. And sometimes you got to fake it till you make it. Even, fake it as it relates to belief. So
yeah. Did you imagine losing it?
No.
Because a lot of people do.
No.
They fuck themselves by basically negative self-talk.
Yeah.
Imagining the worst case scenario, scarcity mindset, and they literally
bring it into existence.
Do that in the opposite.
Yeah. Oh no. Every day people are doing that. I will tell you, probably 80% of the people out there, they focus on what they don't want. In fact, that's how we connect as human beings. Brad, if you came up to me and you didn't know me and said, "Hey, Rod, how you doing?" And I was like, "Oh man, I'm freaking fantastic, brother. Life is amazing." You'd take 2 steps back and you'd say, "Okay, Rod's off his meds." But if you came up to me and said, "How you doing?" I'm like, "Oh fuck, my back is killing me, man. I'm hurting." Oh, you put your arm around me, and go like, "I know, brother. I feel you." See, we connect through pain actually, and it's the craziest thing. But I'm gonna tell you that, like I told you, because you're a leader, pay attention to your focus. Now, we all get off track. I get sucked into the media sometimes, this political thing. I mean, don't get me freaking started, but I got sucked into it. But you really got to pay attention to that, because when you are focused and you know what you want, you've got clarity, you're like a freaking train on a track, man. You're unstoppable. So it's so important. Yeah.
Well, I can attest that it does work. Yeah. I've pulled it off a few times. Yeah. I think clarity is key, but also emotions are key.
Positive emotions.
You got to figure out the why part. Mm-hmm. But too many people are out there doing the opposite.
Yeah.
Like they're literally talking themselves out of shit. And not only that, they're not properly, let's say, affirming in the first place. Like, for example, I hear a lot of people say, "I'm going to be a millionaire."
Right.
And if you just for a minute think, for example, the subconscious mind is there to make you correct. Mm-hmm. So everything you say,
it's listening.
You'll be correct. Let's just pretend that's the truth. So listen to what I'm saying. I'm going to be a millionaire. Well, that's future tense, which means if the mind's making me correct, I'm going to be. Yes, he's going to be, but you never will be, because you're saying I'm going to be,
right,
rather than I am. And by the way, I am.
Two of the most powerful words on the planet, brother. I have sayings all over my house. I am a business genius. I am courage. I am focus. I am determination. I am massive energy. Not because of ego or I'm the world's greatest at what I do, because anything you put the words I am in front of is an identity statement, and there's no greater force in the human psychology than the need to remain consistent with how we identify ourselves.
Now, you mentioned God before. What do you believe of that? I
have a statement in my exercise room that says, God's wealth flows through me in avalanches of abundance. Thank you, God. You know, I'm not going to tell you I'm deeply religious, but I don't believe all this shit fell together in perfect harmony by, happenstance. Let me just say that. And
what are you, a Christian?
I would say I'm probably a Christian. I'm more of a, hey, do right by other people person. In fact, I'll share something with you, but let me come back to that in 1 second, okay? But let me just say this about your comment around being in the present tense. Every morning, I will literally sit for 5 minutes, sometimes 2 minutes. Sometimes I'll lay in my bed, sometimes I'll be in my recliner, and I'll just be grateful. I'll just do gratitude. I'll think about my amazing, beautiful wife. I'll think about my amazing kids. I'll think about my coaching students, my foundation, and I just do gratitude. But then, in light of what you just said, Brad, I'll do gratitude for the things that I want as if I already have them, like I have them right now, okay? Like I say, thank you, God, for the things that I want as if I already have them. And I will tell you, sometimes I'll even get emotional being grateful for the things that I don't even have yet, okay? Why? I know I probably lost a few more of you analytical ones, but why? Because it freaking works, my friends, okay? That gratitude brings it all into existence when you think in the present tense, like you just said. But let's go back to the religious conversation for a second. My belief is, if there is a higher power, it's looking at you and how you treat other people and how you take care of other people. So let me add something to my goal-setting conversation here, and just to substantiate my position. So I built that house on the beach. I mean, this place was spectacular, okay? I mean, like a giant waterfall from the second floor balcony in the pool. Like I said, spiral staircase, aquarium, $200,000 aquarium. I mean, the house was magnificent. And 2 months, I worked for this thing for 20 freaking years, okay? I mean, I knew I wanted it. I probably didn't work that hard the whole time, but I knew I wanted it. 2 months after I moved in, my family's inside sleeping, and I'm in the pool at night, and the pool's changing colors. It's got fiber optic lighting. It's a spectacular. I had like $20,000 worth of palm trees that bent out over the pool and went up. They were just spectacular. The pool was in magazines. 2 months after I moved it, I'm floating in that pool, and I got depressed. And I don't mean just a little bummed. I mean, I was really freaking bummed. I'm like, what the fuck? What's going on? How could I feel bad? I've just achieved success like times 1,000. I had all the fancy cars in the garage and all the stuff. And I had this amazing house, beautiful family. And when I look back on it, there were a few things going on, Brad. One was, you should never achieve a big goal without having other big goals lined up behind it. It's like the good book says, without a vision, the people perish. You need a vision for the future. So that was number one. Number two is, it's really not about the goals. You need the goals. You have to have them because they'll drive you, they'll push you, they'll pull you, they'll motivate you. But it's never about the goals. It's about who you become on your way to the goals. And happiness doesn't come from the goals. Happiness comes from your growth and your progress. And so it's critical that you celebrate your growth and progress. And I can talk about a planning process. It takes about 10 minutes. I can share that as well if you'd like. But so that was the second thing. But the third thing, the biggest thing, was I had been totally focused on Rod. Show the world truly I did this to show the world that I mattered. That's why I did that. And it's a little embarrassing to admit that. Show the world I'm good enough. Prove to the world I mattered. That's why I built this, that big testament to my ego. And I was successful, but I was unfulfilled. Tony Robbins calls it the science of achievement versus the art of fulfillment. And I had achieved the science of achievement, but I had not done the art of fulfillment. So that year when I was depressed, I'm like, shit, I got to get back. I got to figure something out because this isn't going to work. So I went out and bought a bunch of books. I got Dale Carnegie and Zig Ziglar and all the, and then I got a Tony book. And I read his book. And by the way, shout out to him. If you haven't seen him live, for God's sakes, do it while he's still speaking. I spent 20 years following him around the planet because it's so amazing. The technology that he teaches. But I got one of his books and I found out that he feeds families for the holidays. And I'm like, What a concept. Do something for someone else. Up to that point, it had been all about Rod. Show the world I'm good enough, show the world I matter. And he feeds families for the holidays because he had an experience with his family at one time he talks about. But I'm like, so I went back, I'm like, screw it, let's feed 5 families. So my brother and I called a church and we said, who really needs help? I mean, who's really in trouble? And so we got these 5 families. Third family changed my life, Brad. So we bought big boxes of food. We found out if they had kids, we got toys for the kids. And this third family, this lady lived in what's called I call it a shotgun house. It's really a row house where there's like a bunch of units next to each other, but they're not even, it wasn't even a 1 bedroom because you walk into the living room, you walk through the bedroom to get to the kitchen, and the kitchen's got the bath off it. So the bedroom, you gotta walk through it. Anyway, she's in there. She's by herself with 5 kids. She comes out, she sees the box of food. We had frozen turkeys. We did it for Thanksgiving. We do it for Christmas now, but we did it for Thanksgiving. Frozen turkey in a roasting pan, everything she needed. She starts crying when she sees it all. Her kids come out, the older ones start crying. I start crying, and I'm like, I'm freaking hooked. And I'm blessed to say, brother, we have now fed over 90,000 kids for the holidays with these, baskets of food. We've done tens of thousands of thank you. We've done tens of thousands of backpacks filled with school supplies to area kids. Just a travesty to me. And we live in the greatest country on earth, and kids don't have basic school supplies. We've done tens of thousands of teddy bears to the local police departments. When they encounter a child, they can comfort the child. And now I get fulfilled from that, but also, of course, get fulfilled from the teaching that I do and the students that I have. But that gave my life meaning. And so, it's kind of sad. I have a podcast like you do. I'm blessed to say it's the largest commercial real estate podcast really now in the world. We're just about to break 10 million downloads, I think, next week.
Damn.
Yeah, thank you, bud. And I don't know where I was going with that, but
let's tell the bomb squad where they can go listen to that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, Sebastian just put real estate on his iPhone, and I come up number 1 or 2 usually behind Bigger Pockets. It's called Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing. And I just had my 500th episode, which was cool because I had guys that have purchased over 200,000 units in a panel, which was really kind of cool. But sometimes I have people that only have 100 units, but that was really cool. So every week I do an interview segment, but every week I also do a clip called Own Your Power. So if you're listening to Brad here and you're not interested in real estate, you should still go listen to that because once a week I'll juice your ass. Okay. I will pump you up. It takes 5 minutes, man. You'll feel great after you listen to it. I put a lot of effort into it. I put a lot of love into those episodes and they're really powerful. People rave about them. And so, come see what you think. I think you'll enjoy them regardless of whether you're in real estate or not. And if you're interested in multifamily, I do these 2-day boot camps now. I do them live stream. I don't sell anything there. It's 18 hours of training. And if you use a code, I'll give you, it's $97. So if you want to text, what do? Text multifamily to 41411, multifamily to 41411, and just use the code RODFRIEND when you check out.
You text multifamily to 41411.
And then use the code RODFRIEND and you can get it for $97. And I mean, it's 2 full days of training for $97 freaking dollars. And I don't sell anything there. So it's kind of a duh, okay? If you have an interest in real estate. Okay?
You all should have an interest in real estate.
I agree.
Everyone should.
And here's why. Because wherever you make your money, you're going to want to park it in real estate so you don't pay taxes.
Not only that, but dude, that's where the wealth's created.
Yes, sir.
Like you said, your mom woke up with 20 G's.
Right.
You woke up with 17 million.
We just sold that house for $360,000. My mom's in assisted living now. Okay, the house she bought for $30,000, we sold for $360,000.
Yeah, people always ask me what are my biggest regrets. One of them is not getting into real estate. I didn't even understand the shit. And what's crazy is my uncle, his name was Roy Nims. He used to eat 12 eggs every morning for breakfast.
Wow.
A dozen eggs for breakfast.
Wow.
I mean, he was freaking cholesterol king. But anyway, he owned apartments.
Yeah.
And he was, fairly, I'd say middle class. Like you didn't know he had money, but he was a smart son of a bitch. We always knew Roy was smart, and I was young. Right. But he owned apartments, and I still didn't freaking catch on.
Dude,
That's my biggest regret. I wish I could go back.
You just told me before we started recording how old you are, and I've got socks older than you, man. You can absolutely get rolling now, and the interest rates are freaking ridiculously good. And I told you I'll hook you up in my program so you can learn this, whenever you have some free time. But
here's my question with the real estate deal, because you always hear hey, no money down. Now listen, there's a lot of people out there smart enough to have good credit, but not a lot of cash.
Right.
So is that even possible?
Hell yes. And guys, this is not some real estate hyperbole. Okay. You truly can do these deals. Yes. Let me say this. Multifamily real estate, and I focus on the commercial multifamily, okay?
Commercial.
Okay, so there's two types of multifamily. There's residential, which is 2, 3, 4 units, duplex, triplex, fourplex, 2-family, 3-family, 4-family if you're Northeast. Commercial is 5 units plus, okay? And I focus on commercial. Here's why. Residential is great to get started, and I don't want to discourage you, especially if you're a vet. For God's sakes, use that VA and buy a fourplex and start your multifamily journey. And I'll hook you up with a group that's really big into that. That's part of one of the leaders in my Warrior program, my coaching program. But if you're a vet, use the VA, or even if you're not a vet, if everybody starts.
First time buyer.
Yeah, first time buyer. Screw buying a house. Buy a duplex, triplex, fourplex. Chances are, before too long, you'll be living for free. So if you can talk the significant other into doing that, you'll be so glad you did. But that's residential. The only thing with residential, it's fantastic financing, sometimes as high as 97% loan on the purchase, great interest rates. Interest rate doesn't change for 30 years. They're great loans. But the disadvantage is the value is based on comparable sales. So it's hard to ramp the value. In commercial multifamily, what's freaking exciting about it is the value's based on a multiple to the net income. They call it the net operating income. NOI. And so any increase to that net income is an exponential increase to the value. I'll give you an example. And this is an extreme example, but it's a real example. So we've got a 101 unit asset, we call them. That's what we call these properties as assets. 101 unit apartment complex up in Beaver Creek, Ohio. And what's crazy about it actually got destroyed by a tornado. I mean, literally destroyed. All 101 families had to move out. Thank God nobody died. I showed up the day or two after it happened, and I saw this lady moving her stuff out, and she said that her kid was up in his bedroom playing video games, and thank God his phone went off. Early warning system. Thank God for that, because by the time he got downstairs and woke her up, she was sleeping on the couch. His bedroom was gone. But this place was destroyed. Anyway, 101 units. We have rebuilt it now. I think we're 75% occupied again, and we are getting a $650 rent bump per unit. Okay, now this is not the norm. Okay, but just to give you an example of why this is so freaking exciting, at 500. Once we get full at 500 increase, well, let's not go 650. At 650 rent increase, that is a $12 million increase in value instantly the minute we've got it filled up. Okay. I've got another asset in Louisiana. We bought it at 70% occupied. The market was 95% occupied. It just been horribly managed. Once we get it to 90%, we will have made $8 million without even raising the rents because of the increase to the net income. So that's why we love commercial real estate, because commercial multifamily, because what you do is you go there and you fix it up and you increase the rents, maybe decrease the expenses through some efficiencies with water conservation, electric conservation, but maybe charge pet rent that hasn't been charged before, or bill back utilities that hasn't been done before, anything like that goes right to the bottom line. And it's an exponential increase in value. We've got an asset right now under contract in Dallas. I think it's 270, 80 units. And we're going to be able to bump the rents $200. So let me tell you what that means. And this thing is going to have
$540,000.
No, it's more than that, dude. It's a lot more than that. Hang on a minute here.
270 times 200?
Yeah. Well, okay. 270 times 200. Yes, is 54,000. Okay. Now what you do is you annualize that. So times 12. And then let's divide it by, say, a 5 cap. Divided by 0.05. That is a $13 million increase in value at a 5 cap. But let's be more conservative. We'll do it at a 4 cap. I mean, at a 6 cap. Hang on one second. That's, by the way, cap is a capitalization rate. And that's how people, hang on, divided by 0.06. Let's be more conservative. Oh, no, that's not right. Hold on. 54 times 12 equals divided by 0.06. 10.8, almost $11 million increase in value once we get that $200 rent bump. I mean, that's why, and that's instant. I mean, yeah, we're going to go in, we're going to put in plank flooring, the vinyl plank, the vinyl flooring. We're going to put in, probably put in some countertops, maybe some new appliance packages.
How much will that cost?
The average on a reposition is anywhere from $3,000 to $8,000 a unit. Okay. And but this one, a lot of that's already been done. And we're still able to get a $200 rent bump. And again, we're just going under contract on this literally today. I was telling you about this deal. By the way, if you're listening and you're accredited and you want to chat with us about one of our deals, I can tell you, I lost $50 million in 2008. So would you think that I'm pretty conservative? I can tell you that, we've bought 1,800 units in the last 1,900 units in the last 18 months with my students. And we've got another 500 under contract right now. But that 260 is the one I'm talking about here, but I'm very, very conservative. So like our loan to value is typically 65%. Okay. And obviously the lower that number is, the more conservative someone is. And a lot of times operators out there they'll go in at 80% loan to value, for example. And that's a much riskier position if there's a hiccup in the marketplace. The other thing is we always raise a lot of extra money for operating reserves just in case, like we just closed on a deal in Cincinnati and we have $1 million in the bank just sitting there just in case, so very, very conservative. But if you're interested in talking to us, if you're accredited, text the word partner to 41411 and we'll talk to you. We'll get, I'll chat with you about getting involved with us, but you need to be accredited. Unfortunately, if you're not accredited, we can't work with you. They used to be, you couldn't even talk about a deal on publicly like this, but they've changed that. But you can only deal with accredited investors. Accredited means you make $200,000 a year and it's expected to continue, or your net worth is $1 million. And not counting your principal residence. So if you fit one of those two markers, then you're accredited. Give us a call. Again, text partner to 41411 and we'll chat with you about what we've got going on. We're super conservative and great returns. That deal's going to throw off 12% a year return on your cash. So you put in $100,000, you're going to get $12,000 back a year in distributions. And then once we ultimately, what our goal, what we typically do is we refinance and try to get everybody all their money back within 5 years. And then you're in the deal for your equity portion forever. And it's infinity returns. So we don't.
What if you want to sell?
If you want to sell, then we find somebody to buy you out is what very few people do because the returns are so good. It's kind of dumb unless you really need the money. But we'll have that's one of the conversations we have with you up front is, if you're looking for a quick hit, we're not the fit. My podcast called Lifetime Cash Flow. And so, that's what we're about. We're about creating cash flow. So like I said, with this deal, you get your money back, but you're still in the deal for your percentage, what that equals to in the deal. And so you're still going to get, income from that forever. Our goal is to find assets we can hold long-term, get our money back out, and then just, what else can you buy that someone else pays for, and that's the beautiful thing about real estate, why we love it.
Well, cash flow is freedom.
Yes, sir.
I mean,
it's everything.
I've made a lot of money, earned income, and I made the mistake of feeling rich, looking rich, acting rich, because I made a bunch of money, but I didn't even understand cash flow in any way.
Well, you were trading. I mean, forgive me. I don't know most people. Let me say it this way: most people trade time for money.
Yep.
And the name of the game is to have your money working for you and have it invested in something. And real estate, there's nothing better than real estate. And frankly, I don't think there's anything better than multifamily real estate. I had people raving about retail a couple of years ago. I was part of a mastermind, had a bunch of guys, and they were all in retail, and they're getting their asses handed to them right now. The average I'm hearing is that 70% of their tenants can't pay. They need help. Restaurants and everything. They're getting killed. Don't get me started on what's going on in L.A. with that. But so retail's getting killed. Office is getting killed. People are working from home, and so office is getting killed. I hit the mic there. I would say, the only asset classes that are doing well are multifamily, including mobile home parks. So that's a great asset class. And the other one is, and self-storage does really well too. So those two, are good. But
self-storage and mobile home?
Yeah. And multifamily and apartments for sure. Now, I wouldn't recommend, and maybe you're watching this and you flip houses or you wholesale houses, and that's great, but it's a job. Every January 1st, you go back to work. So, if you want to, the name of the game is to build an annuity or cash flow. And so if
recurring revenue,
man,
coming in,
you just got to make it to the first of the freaking month and you're good. There's nothing better.
Now, the self-storage, mobile home, and multifamily, out of all three of those, what do you think's the best right now?
Well, I will tell you the only one I'm really hot on is multifamily. I second would be mobile home parks. I don't know a thing about self-storage. I've just had friends and a couple of my students have started into that, and it's not my wheelhouse, so I can't speak about it.
It's the same concept. People are paying to rent your space.
Well, that's exactly right. Rent is the name of the game.
Now, if someone's sitting there with, let's say, $10 million, they don't go spend $10 million on and pay off a building. You're supposed to leverage the bank.
That's correct.
Correct.
That's correct. Absolutely.
So you take that $10 million and you buy, let's say, $45 or $50 million worth of property with that 10.
That's right. And you know what? I just realized we didn't close the loop on your conversation around no money down because we went off on a side road. Let me talk about that for a second because it's really important. Because we talked about commercial real estate and the beauty of commercial real estate, and I don't think I answered the question. So yes, all real estate requires money down, but it doesn't have to be your freaking money, okay? Now, you've got to be knowledgeable enough about the business so you can influence people to invest with you, but there's so much money looking for deals right now. It's crazy, okay? And so if you learn the business, come spend a couple days with me. Like I said, it's $97. It's a no-brainer, and I'm not selling anything, and 16 to 18 hours of training, and it's kick-ass.
You don't have to go anywhere.
No, and you can do it at home. It's kick-ass. I mean, you'll love it. The only complaint I ever get, and that's it. I mean, no complaints at all, except that my breaks are too short because I try to pack in as much as I can. They're 15-minute breaks, and it's harder on me than the people watching because they can eat. I have to keep talking. But anyway, no money down. So the beautiful thing about commercial real estate is they look at the team that's buying the property. They don't look at individuals. In fact, your income's pretty much irrelevant. They're going to look at the property's ability to service the debt, okay? And so they're going to look at the property's ability to service the debt, and then they're going to look for three things in the team, okay? They're going to look for liquidity, but that can be, you find one high net worth individual and you can go take down a multifamily deal. I did, just as an aside, when I was in my 20s, I bought millions of dollars worth of property, 50-50 with partners in joint ventures. They put up the money. I did the work. I found the deals. I managed the deals. We split and everybody was happy. And you can do that as well. But there's also what's called syndication, where you put a deal together and you syndicate it. And it just means writing a check to an SEC attorney. Don't overthink it. But we teach that at my boot camp. But the point is, there's so much money looking for deals. You can even give a piece of the deal to the person that puts up the earnest money. The upfront earnest money with the contract. The person that puts up the money for the reports you're going to have to pay for and the due diligence. It's called the at-risk capital. You give a small piece of the deal to somebody to put that up. You give another piece of the deal to the people that put up all the down payment money. It's called the equity. In commercial real estate, it's different than residential. You think equity, you think, okay, I have a $100,000 house and I owe 50. I have 50,000 in equity. In commercial, it's a little different. You call the equity the amount of money that's coming out of pocket to take down the deal. So it's the down payment, it's the closing costs, it's the money you're putting in for operating reserves, the money you're putting in to do your capital improvements, CapEx it's called, capital expenditures to fix up the property. That's your equity, all of that. And but you give your partners a piece of the deal to for putting that up. And again, I can't tell you, I know dozens of people that have hundreds, if not thousands of doors that don't have their own money in their deals. They raise the money. Now, they've got to be competent, okay? So they have to build their competence in the business. They have to, learn from me or someone like me. Then that equates to their confidence, which equates to their ability to influence people, influence them to invest with them. And so, and that's how it's done. And it's a team sport. You can find one person that satisfies the liquidity requirement. There's also a net worth requirement. So you have to have liquidity equal to 10% of the loan amount after you close. It's called post-closing liquidity. You have to have.
So if I'm buying a $5 million deal.
If let's say the loan is $4 million, let's say the loan is $4 million, you'd need $400,000 after closing. Okay.
Someone would.
There's someone on the team or the combination of everybody in the team. Everybody's bank accounts come together for that. Same with net worth. You have to have a net worth equal to the loan amount. So if you're borrowing $4 million, your net worth needs to be $4 million. But again, it's the team. You go find a doctor, a high net worth individual. He could probably satisfy, or she could satisfy both those requirements. And then you have to have some experience. But the beautiful thing now is actually there's what they call agency loans, and Freddie Mac has a program where if you just get the right property management company that they're okay with, that'll satisfy the experience component. You have to have a little bit of experience, but you don't have to have taken down a huge deal. And so those are the 3 requirements. And as long as you're competent, again, so that you're confident enough to talk to people about this, you can raise the money for your deals. It's done every single day. I've got students. My students, I think they're about to hit 40,000 units that they own. And again, it's about knowing the business and then just go out there and take action. And so much of this is mindset. So much of this psychology, and just taking action once you understand it and know it.
What do you promise the person that's putting up the dough, and why wouldn't they do it themselves? Because they don't want to?
Because most of them don't want to. I mean,
why wouldn't they want to?
Because it requires them to learn and take action. And by the way, let me say that though, on that note, if you're thinking about investing passively, it's called, where you're an accredited investor. I mentioned, you can get an R deal, text partner to 41411. But even with that, come spend 2 days with me in my boot camp. Why would you give money to someone not fully understanding the business? I don't understand people that'll give money to a stockbroker where mainly what they're trained on is their ability to sell, invest their hard-earned money with them, and without knowing the business. It's not smart. Okay, so if you want to invest passively in multifamily, come spend a couple days with me so you've got a really good understanding of what you're doing, because it'll prevent you from going with the wrong person. I mean, there's
$97, folks. That's ridiculous.
It is, but I forgot where we were going with that.
What do you teach at those 2 days? I'm sure
I teach finding deals, building your brand, creating brand, how you create reach to reach out to investors. I teach, how to raise the money, how to start those relationships.
What about the deal structure?
I'm not there yet. How to build a team. That's all the preliminary stuff. Put your team together.
Team meaning like the management team, or
the people that you're gonna likely align with people to do this. Okay, this is a team sport. Commercial real estate is not a person. If you're flipping wholesaling houses, you can do that on your own. You're not going to do this on your own. You're going to partner with people, and certainly on your first couple deals at least. Okay.
Yeah, but let's say I got $10 million extra laying around.
Right.
I want to go buy a property. I buy a $50 million property. I put $10 million down. It's just me.
Well, what team do I need? You could do that. You may not, but there's not a lot of people. Brad, you may have 10 million. You probably do, but most people don't. Okay. So, even in your case, if you were going to do it, I would tell you, learn the freaking business before you throw your 10 million down, because there's a lot more zeros in this space.
Can you get hit though? How do you lose?
Okay, let's talk about how I lost. Okay. So that's really important. I'm really glad you brought it up. Which is why I only do multifamily. See, when I was losing everything in 2008, I mean, this is going to blow your mind. I only owed 30 cents on the dollar, okay? My loan to value was 30%, which is very, very low, okay? But here's what the problem was. I had 800 houses, and I had several apartment complexes. My apartment—
All in your name?
Oh, yeah. Well, not my name. Somewhere in my name personally, somewhere in LLCs, but I own them all, 100% me, okay? No partners. And so 800 houses, the problem was my 800 houses were 2 hours north, 2 hours south, and everywhere in between, okay? Logistically stupid, okay? Let me just say that. Impossible to manage that way, and I'll explain why.
You were managing them yourself?
Yeah, I had my own management company. So here's what killed me. So first of all, Florida has no state income tax, so property taxes are higher, which impacts what? Cash flow. I had properties in wind and flood zones, which makes insurance much higher, which impacts what? Cash flow. But the big thing was, if I sent someone to one of my apartment complexes to fix something maintenance-wise, all the HVAC is the same, the appliances are the same, the locks are the same, the windows are the same, the plumbing parts are the same, everything's the same, so we can stockpile parts. So I can send one, he's in and out in an hour, boom, done. If I had to send one to one of my houses, and most of my houses were C class, okay, working class, they get beat up a lot more than A and B properties. So I had C properties. So I send someone, maybe it's an hour and a half to get there. Then they have to get there. They see what's wrong. Every house is different. So they got to find a Home Depot or a Lowe's where we have an account. And that could be another hour round trip. And I don't know if you've ever fixed anything, but anytime I do, invariably I end up going back again because I forgot something. And the same thing, with maintenance guys. And so would take an hour at one of my apartment complexes, took all day at one of my 800 houses. You multiply that times 800, and that killed me. Okay, and then lastly, there's one other piece I wanted to share. What was it about the cash flow? Yeah, I lost my train of thought.
While you're thinking that, how do you lose all the equity?
Well, I couldn't hold it together. Oh, here's the other thing. I had 70% equity in my portfolio, and I went underwater. It dropped more than 70%. See, I thought 80 million baby boomers getting old and getting cold, Florida was recession proof. Well, we were ground freaking zero, like Vegas here, like California. I mean, just decimated. And so I went underwater, and at that point I'm like, fuck it, I'm not gonna try to hold it together, and I had to bail, and it was horrible. I hated it, because I thought I was set for life, man. I truly thought I was set for life.
How much cash flow was coming in a month?
Yeah, see, that's the thing. It wasn't, and that's what I wasn't focused on cash flow. I was focused on the value. See, I even talked about it here. Value's out the window, guys. I wrote a book, and the subtitle, it's called How to Create Lifetime Cash Flow with Multifamily Properties, but the subtitle is The New Rules of Real Estate Investing, i.e. the new rules. Forget about the freaking value, okay? Focus on the cash flow, and I wasn't, okay?
Yeah.
And that's what killed me. But see, what was fascinating is when I was losing it all, my apartments did just fine. If I hadn't cross-collateralized them, meaning I lumped them together with packages of houses with the debt to save, half an interest rate point, I'd still own those apartment complexes because they did just fine. Yeah, they pulled back a little bit, but maybe 10, 11%, which is really nothing. But the houses is what killed me.
Sunk you.
It's killed me, yeah.
Now, what about when banks say, pay us, like accelerate? When you sign those deals, there's some acceleration clause. If some shit happens, they can call it due. And if you don't have that money,
right, you're screwed.
Yeah, like if somebody's out there right now with $1 billion in real estate, rolling around, feeling good, and then the bank, something happens, like COVID, something happens and says, all right, pay the debt. And
no. They can't unilaterally just call the debt. There has to be a reason. There has to be a default of some sort. There has to be some change in the circumstances.
Yeah, like maybe the depreciation.
No, it wouldn't be depreciation.
Where you're now negative equity.
If you didn't pay your taxes, for example.
What about negative equity?
If the property went upside down, possibly it would depend on the type of debt. But
they at least want to make you whole.
Yeah, but see, the thing of it is, in this commercial real estate space, these guys are really smart. Okay, there's two big outfits, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, that loan money on commercial assets, and that's what 90% of the market is, and they know what the heck they're doing. And so like for example, when COVID hit, they started requiring a year's worth of principal and interest reserves. So they calculated your principal and interest payments for a year, and that had to go in the bank. Okay, and they're going to hold that for a year or two and see how the property performs. I mean, they're really sharp, and most of those big deals like that, they don't come back as often as you might think. But if they're poorly managed, sure.
Now, what about a REIT?
Well, REITs, the thing about REITs, you put the REITs, their cost of funds are almost zero. And so, I was, who was I interviewing? Oh, Albert Barris, my first interview ever, a billionaire, just beautiful human being as well. But he competes with REITs, and it's a tough, like he buys in the $50 to $100 million range, and he was saying he's getting outbid by 30 to 40% by REITs because they have their cost of funds. That doesn't cost them much to put that money out there because they're playing the spread. And so, REITs are great for the people that own the REITs. I mean, you could check the performance. It might be somewhere you could invest.
But can you build up a bunch of properties and then sell them to a REIT?
It's been done. Sure. Yeah, it's not my wheelhouse, so I can't speak intelligently about it. Honestly,
what's the goal? Just to create cash flow?
For me, it's cash flow, brother. Lifetime cash flow. It's the name of my podcast. I hit me once, shame on you. Hit me twice, it's my own damn fault. I got it. Okay, I got the memo. It was a $50 million freaking memo, but I got the memo. Okay, so I am totally focused on cash flow. I'm extremely conservative. Like I said, 65% loan to value on assets we're buying. Big operating reserves in case something happens. Super tight management. Just on and on and on. And so. And again, it took that big memo for me to see the disparity between, what I was investing in, single family versus multifamily, and the differences and the nuances. And that's why I started my podcast. The only reason I started my podcast was to to share that with people, to say, hey, if you're going to invest in real estate, for God's sakes, do multifamily, don't do single family. Look at what happened to me. Okay. And the second reason was I hate asking for money, and I knew I was getting back into real estate. I thought, well, I'll start a podcast. And I used to tell people, it's kind of funny. If you listen to my first few episodes, I said, I'll never sell you anything, because I never intended, and I didn't want, I just wanted to add value. And I'm a freaking liar, because I've got courses and coaching and my book but I truly never intended to. I just freaking loved it. I've got a wall behind my desk covered with probably close to 1,000 thank you cards from people whose lives been impacted by my work. And it's my greatest gift ever. And I'm sure you get that love too. It's freaking awesome, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It definitely feels good.
Right.
But a guy like me that's wasted all these years.
Oh, stop it. Don't drive through life looking in the rearview mirror. Respectfully, my friend. You're so young. You go out there and get started now, man. It's a fantastic time to get started in this business. It's never been better, honestly, in my opinion. The rates are fantastic. The opportunities are there. And candidly, I hate to say it, but we could be headed for a correction too. There could be a blip coming up.
I think there is one.
I do too. In fact,
That's why I'm waiting.
I did a YouTube video on this called "The Coming Real Estate Crash of 2021," and it's my highest watched YouTube video ever. Of course, people love negative news. Negative headlines sell, but I had a couple of economists on the show, and they're all talking like it's happening right away. And I, one of them I really respect, because I saw him speak like 23 years ago, and he told me, he basically predicted 2008. Had I listened, I wouldn't have lost $50 million. So I had him on the show. A guy's named Harry Dent, but he, his framework is doom and gloom, but he called 08, nailed it. And so, and he said, it's coming regardless of what happens with the election, with COVID, with anything else. It's just too many factors involved, but that's
so he says it's coming.
It's coming, like right away, like months.
So
okay?
So if people just held on.
Well, let's talk about that. There are deals out there right now, but. And so yes, you could wait to start buying, but I'm going to tell you don't have to, as long as you track the numbers.
All right.
Yeah, you've just got to know, you've got to learn the numbers, and I'll teach it on my weekend. Just come spend 2 days with me.
You'll know just in those 2 days?
Yeah, you can dig. You'll need to dig deeper. You'll need to evaluate deals. You'll need to associate with yourself with people. But we tell you all of that. We give you a 90-day action plan, step by step, so you'll know how to do it, but you got to do it. Okay, you've still got to dig in. Obviously, you've got to learn how to evaluate deals, practice it. You've got to build those relationships, and again, grind now to play later. Work for a couple of years hard so you can play later, and that's it. I've got students that been with me 2 years that have retired from very high-paying jobs because they took freaking action, and that's it.
I want to know how you find the deals, and then how do you know that the property doesn't have termites or some bullshit damage? You'd never know.
You have it inspected, man. You have it inspected. It depends on the size of the building, but you always have it inspected. I've been in thousands and thousands and thousands of properties, and I would never buy anything without having
Who inspects it?
You have a building inspector come in, or let's say you've got high dollar HVAC, or you have the trades that maybe the electrical system's dated. You want that looked at. You have an electrician come. You have an HVAC contractor come. You have a building inspector come. If there's any question about anything, roofer, check out the roofs. Paving company, look at the asphalt.
You just factor that into the deal, or do you have to walk away because it's got to have a bunch of work
sometimes
done?
You have to walk away. Yeah, I will tell you, we kiss probably 200 to 300 frogs right now before we find a deal. But it's worth it.
No, yeah, but 200.
No, we're not paying. We're not. No. 200 that we quickly evaluate. No. We probably inspect. It's like a big funnel. They come into the top and they get weeded. A lot of them get weeded out, and then maybe there were 20 that we write offers on, 5 to 10 that we inspect, and 1 that we close on. So it's like a funnel, like a sales funnel almost.
Is there any money in finding you deals?
You bet. Yeah, you bet.
What if there's people out there willing to find you deals?
Every deal that we've done out of those 2,000 doors I was just talking about was brought to us by our students, and they're all in. Each one of them has one or more of our students in them. That brought us the deals. So yeah, absolutely.
But no money, just they brought the deal?
They get money too. They have a piece of the deal. They get money. We charge,
No, have to give money.
Oh, well, in some cases they want to give money because the returns are so great. If they've got a little cash, they throw it in the deal. But no, they don't have to.
Well, let's say I know where there's a unit, right? I know where there's a building right now. The person wants to sell it, doesn't know what they're doing, just inherited it. I showed it to you and you bought it.
Yeah,
Do I get
then
paid?
you could be in on the deal. You'd be
What
dumb.
if I got no money? Do I get paid?
Sure.
So you'll pay for people to bring you deals?
Sure.
If
Be
you buy
stupid
'em.
not to. Be stupid not to. But you'd be smarter to get in on the deal than to just take a check. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
but I'm trying to-
like flipping and wholesaling. You know, these guys that buy these houses and they flip them, or properties, they flip them and wholesale them. You know, if you're doing that, if you're flipping and wholesaling, let me say this to you. Do multifamily, for God's sakes. I've got someone that's learned from me that made $2 million wholesaling a deal. And I've got 3 of my Warrior mentorship students that each made over $100,000 wholesaling a deal. So, and that's where you put the property under contract and then you find somebody to ultimately buy it and you just assign the contract to them for a fee. I mean, you don't even have your own money in it. So again, if you're wholesaling houses, for God's sake, start looking at multifamily. It's bigger numbers. But, you know, again, when you take that cash, like you just said, you're not building anything. All you're doing is, you know, that cash typically will get spent unless you're going to reinvest it in real estate. That's a different conversation.
And you should.
Right.
Because again,
Agreed.
my whole life, I made a lot.
Right.
And then I looked about 4 years ago and I'm like, dude, if shit hit the fan where my earned income goes away, thankfully it hasn't and it probably never will.
Right.
I'm fucked.
Well,
To where it's like, dude, I got to catch up. So now I'm playing catch up.
That's
so
all
I'm
right.
so I'm looking for deals. I don't know
dude,
what
I
I'm
lost
looking for.
$50 million. Okay.
Equity or cash?
I mean, it was equity for the
So
most
how much
part.
cash have you ever had one time where it's like you could spend it, you could
I've
play
had,
with
I've
it?
had millions. I've had millions, but again, knowing what you know now, and I'm not speaking to you, I'm speaking to everybody listening that's maybe suffering and, you know, got their ass handed to them like I did. You know, I'll tell you, I was telling you, in May, we were supposed to have 800 people come to my Orlando boot camp. Every one of my boot camps is sold out for the last 2.5 years. And COVID hit, and I'm like, holy shit, what are we going to do? And so we pivoted. If you go to multifamilyvirtualbootcamp.com, you'll see me on my freaking phone recording the video. We got our website up in 2 days. We had 900 people show for my live stream. It was the largest event we ever had, and we never looked back. So sometimes, if you're listening and you're struggling right now, maybe you need to innovate. Maybe you need to pivot. And I'm going to tell you that some of the largest companies on the planet, long-lasting companies, were built in times like this. So, you know, don't look at what you fear. Focus on what you want. Innovate, pivot. Peter Drucker said, I didn't know you did that. That's kind of cool. And you know, focus on what you want. And Peter Drucker said, every business is nothing but marketing and innovation. And so, you know, so you should constantly be looking to innovate, add value. The people that add the most value on this planet are the most successful, period. And so, you know, make sure that's your focus. And that's, like I said, when I started my podcast, I took hundreds of calls from listeners. I said, call me, we'll talk for 30 minutes. I'll help you in any way that I can, not selling anything. I'll just help you. Took hundreds of them. And I just focused on adding value. And now it's the largest commercial real estate podcast there is. And again, you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. I never planned on any of that, but I'm so blessed that it worked out, because I absolutely I've never loved my life more than I love it right now with what's going on.
And now that you're back on top of the game, that's fantastic. Let's
Thank
close out with talking about your charity. How do you help the kids? I know you help feed families.
Yeah, no, you know, it's guys, and let me say this to you. Everything in this universe contributes in some fashion. In fact, if it doesn't contribute, it gets eliminated. Everything, if you really sit and think about it. Human beings have a need to contribute. Now, it's an underutilized need. It's a basic human need that gets underutilized. But if you're listening to Brad and you've got blood dripping from your teeth and you're freaking hungry and you know you're going to make this happen and you're motivated every time you listen to his show and you know you're going to do this, what I'm going to say to you is give back now. If you're saying to yourself, I'll give back when I have the money, screw that. Do something right now. Because we all think that the way to do this is to achieve, to be happy. But it's much faster and much more effective if you're happily achieving. And if you're giving back, that's so cool. I got to get one of those. Anyway, if you're happily achieving, and you're happy if you're giving back and you're adding to the world and you're making the world a better place. Okay, that too.
I got a few of them.
That's awesome, brother.
But that's true. That's true right there.
Yeah. No, and so, like I said, it's my greatest gift. And that was, again, that was 10 years ago I started doing that. Was it 10 or 20? Hold on. 20 years ago I started doing that. Good Lord, Jesus. I'm 60 now. Like I said, I got socks older than you, brother. So I'm
not far behind.
Anyway, so so give back now, guys. Even if you just help one family, if you do something for whatever juices you. That's the key thing is whatever juices you. If it's animals, if it's the environment, if it's the elderly, if it's kids, whatever it is, do something now, because you're going to, power moves to those who serve, period. I'm just telling you, I don't care what you believe in, power moves to those who serve.
That's right.
And the more you give, the more you get. It's just the way God or the universe or whatever you believe works. You get it back tenfold. So, pay for the person in Starbucks, pay for their drink, or do something to pay it forward. And I'm going to tell you, your success is going to come faster and you're going to be happier.
Yeah, and if you guys want to donate to the Bradley Happy Family Foundation.
Love it.
That just goes to my children and myself, and we have a happier life.
Oh, that's terrible. If you want to donate to something cool, go to tinyhandsfoundation.org. Every dime goes to what I described. I pay all the operating costs and then some, but give back in some way. If you'd like, I forgot to share something. If you want to close this out, we can close it out. But I have this, it take me about 10 minutes to talk about a planning process that's really powerful.
Do it.
Okay, all right, let's do this, guys. And again, if you can take some notes, take some notes. Because, you've all heard the old adage, fail to plan, plan to fail. There's nothing that could be more honest and truthful than that. And so first thing, you got to make a decision. But I teach this at my live events and to my students, and let me just share it because it doesn't take that long. And so pick a day and time every week that you're going to plan, okay? And you're going to sit down and plan. And I recommend that you ideally do it the same day and same time of day because, we all have habits. Some of our habits serve us and some of them don't. But you want to turn this into a habit, and this is a habit for success. And if you do it for 60 to 90 days, you'll do it the rest of your life, and it is so freaking powerful. So what you're going to do is sit down, and the first thing that you do, and some of this you may not think is important. I'm here to tell you these first two things are freaking critical. The first thing you do is you look at what you got done the previous week and you just pat yourself on the back. Good job, Brad. Whatever it is that you did, but you got to do it consciously. It takes a split freaking second, but I already told you, it's never about the goals. It's about growth and progress, but you've got to consciously acknowledge that growth and progress. We're going to have delays, we're going to have setbacks, but if you're consciously acknowledging your growth and your progress, then you're happy even if you have those delays and setbacks. So just take a second, and when you're scratching stuff off your list, pat yourself on the back. So that's number one. Number two, if you aren't journaling, go get a journal, and even if you only do it this once a week, journal any magic moments you had in your life, especially, for God's sakes, if you have kids, okay? Just because they change so fast and you forget so much. But journal, even if you don't, just anything amazing, made you tear up or made you realize how blessed you are, write it down. Do like gratitude. And if you've got kids, listen, I did it with my kids, and my kids, like I say, are now 29 and 26, and I brought them over and we read through some of this stuff. My daughter cried. We laughed. It was just amazing. All these things that we would have forgotten otherwise. So give yourself that gift, please. Now, if you do it every day, that's even better. I had Hal Elrod on my podcast, and he wrote a book called The Miracle Morning, and a fantastic book, and he's a beautiful human being too. And that's, you do it every morning in that process where you meditate, you exercise, you journal. He calls it scribing, I think, and you do that. But journal for 5 minutes, anything amazing that happened, at least once a week. Give yourself that gift, trust me, because not only are you focused on what you're grateful for, which is so critical, so that's how you bring everything into your life, but secondarily, I lost my train of thought. You get clarity. You get clarity, and clarity is power. The more you journal, the more clarity you have in your life and what's going on, and clarity is power. But gratitude, I told you, that's how you manifest everything in your life. And I'll tell you, I did something. Here's a little trick. Trick's the wrong word. Here's a little clue or suggestion. If you've got a significant other, I did this for my beautiful wife, where I journaled what I was grateful for. I bought a journal. It was about 100 pages, and every day I filled up a page and what I loved about her. And there were some days I didn't freaking want to write in there. But not only did it cause me to show up different in the relationship, and so she saw it changed me because I was always just focused on what I loved about her, but it was a pretty awesome gift to give her for her birthday because it was a total surprise. And it was 100 pages of what I loved about her. And it's in her closet, which is like her inner sanctum. But anyway, so journal. Okay, now the next thing is really important. And this is in the weekly planning process. Back to that. So I want you to write down three things. Number one, every person that's most important in your life, okay? All the people, okay? And this is just the people that really matter, not necessarily your associates, but friends and people that really matter. It shouldn't probably be more than 20 or 30 people max, okay? If you're in a big Latin family or, big family like that, might be 30, but that would be it. So all the people that matter. I hope that didn't insult anybody, but that thing about, anyway, that didn't mean to. Some of these people take family very, very seriously, and it's a beautiful thing. And so, there are some cultures that, the extended family lives with them anyway. So I'm soft pedaling here, but I meant that in a good way. So then you want to write down all the core pieces of your core job or your business, whatever it is, that you have to think about on a weekly basis. So if you own a business, like in my case, I had a big litigation support company. I had about 18 things that I listed. That is very unusual. Chances are you're probably on to list about 8 or 10 things, okay? But you want to list all the core pieces of your business or your work that you have to think about on a weekly basis. So Brad, you might think about, your marketing efforts, your IT efforts, your podcast, your I'm just using you as an example. Maybe I don't know your business that well, but maybe the programming you're doing and all the high level thinking. I call it your thinking list or your impact list. The areas of your business that you're going to have the most impact. Okay, impact list, thinking list. So you think about those things and you list those things. Now, if you're going to get into the multifamily business, that I would encourage you to list about 8 to 10 things there as well, or whatever side hustle you're going to do. So you got your core job, W-2 job, or your business. You're going to list the big impact areas there you got to think about. Then you're going to list the areas in the multifamily business, maybe, evaluating deals, building relationships with brokers and property managers, and potential investors, going to Rod's boot camp, whatever, learning the business, like maybe 8 to 10 things in the multifamily business, or whatever you're going to get into as a side hustle. List those, okay? So you've got the people that matter. You've got your core high impact. Again, shouldn't be more than 5 to 10 high impact areas in your core business, and then say 5 to 10 things in the multifamily or whatever side hustle you're going to do. Lastly, you're going to put some declarations down. So and these aren't goals, these are declarations. So like, give you an example of mine. Like one of them is, what can I do to rock Tiffy's world this week? That's one of mine. That's my wife's name, Tiffy. So what can I do to rock her world? I lift one body part a day. That's one of mine. Read 30 minutes of a good book a day. So these are mine, but they should be declarations that you're committed to doing, health, relationship, business, whatever it is that are important to you. Okay, now, once you're done with this list, if you're a hand writer, re-hand write it on one sheet of paper. It's really important. If you're a typer like me, put it on a Word document and print it on one sheet of paper. And here's why that's important. When you look at that one sheet of paper, it's your whole freaking life. It's everything that matters in your life on that one sheet of paper. And here's why that's such a big deal. Number one is, it's a little counterintuitive, but it actually greatly reduces, if not minimizes, overwhelm, okay? Because you can see it all. It's right there. Secondly, it gives you clarity. And again, what's clarity? Clarity is power. Lastly, when you're going to use that list and you're going to go through and create your task list. That's the next step. You're going to create your task list after you're looked at that, so you maintain balance. If there's somebody you need to touch and give some love to, you remember to do that. If there's an area of your business that you've been neglecting, you're going to remember to circle back and do something with that, so you maintain balance and nothing falls behind. Okay, so you're going to create your task list. Now, this is really important. Your task list is not a place for goals. In fact, it's not even a place for projects. It's only what you're committed to doing that week. I called it my weekly must list as it relates to this list. In fact, it's a Word document, and I've literally got these, and I just change the date every week. And this impact list is at the bottom of this document. At the top is my to-dos, and I just change the date every week. And I've got them that go back 20 years now. But it's kind of cool to look back at what was important to me 20 years ago. But anyway, so you've done your tasks, you've listed your tasks. If you've got a project, you only list the tasks that you're going to do associated with that project that week. So the list is not overwhelming, it's real. This is what you're committed to accomplishing that week. So it's just your to-dos. Then there's 2 more steps. We're almost done. So the next thing is, with any list, there was this guy named Pareto that discovered this, I don't know, like 300 years ago. It's called the Pareto principle. It's the 80-20 rule. On any list, there's always a small percentage of the items that will get you further faster. So you look at that list and you identify what those are and you block time for them. Okay? And so not only are you celebrating your progress, and you're not losing anything because you've listed everything in your life that's important. And then you're focused on the things that are going to get you further faster. And this is how I managed 2 very large companies at the same time, by focusing on these things, so that I wasn't caught up in busy work. I was focused on what really mattered. So anyway, guys, I hope that helps. And I can tell you, when you implement this and you do it on a consistent basis, you are freaking unstoppable. So anyway,
unstoppable. That's my
baby.
Thing, man. Rod, that was freaking awesome. And I'm telling you, the
brother.
Bomb Squad got an earful of value today. Folks, you obviously need to share this out. There's somebody that you know that needs to hear this. I want you to go text 41411.
Yeah, and just put in multifamily. Even if you're not interested, for $97, just to spend the first hour and a half on that goal setting workshop, I do music, I push you. You'll be glad you came. But if you have any interest in real estate, which you should, for $97, I'm not selling anything. So it's a duh. There's no big sale, nothing. Okay, so just come learn the business, and if you're accredited and you want to look into our deals, text partner to 41411. And again, I promise in either case you'll be very, very glad you did. So
and go follow him on IG at Rod_Khleif, KHLEIF. And then obviously tinyhands.org.
Tinyhandsfoundation.org. Well, thank you for that. I
really
money,
never. Man. Let's help people with tiny hands.
Oh, thank you, brother. And then, if you're interested in real estate and you want to start learning earlier, go to Real Estate with Rod. It's just a direct link to rodkhleif.com, but nobody can spell my last name. So Real Estate with Rod, go there, and I've got free books, I've got videos, I've got so much content that's free that'll just help you get rolling. So,
dude, you're a good man.
Thank you, my friend.
Folks, share this out. As always, till next time, keep it real.
Dropping bombs with the real Brad Lee. Subscribe now.